1.6, credit cards. If you take away one thing from this entire course, it is I want you to have a healthy respect for credit cards. They can be very, very helpful. They're totally the way that the world works in terms of online purchases, building up credit. They are a very positive thing in some ways, but in some ways, having a credit card can make it so that getting in debt is that much easier. And given the interest rates that credit card companies charge, you can get yourself into actually a lot of trouble with credit cards. So I hope that this video instills in you kind of a healthy respect for credit cards. So to get a credit card, you have to be at least 18, complete an application form, and be approved by the credit card company, usually through banks, but also through some stores like Canadian Tire or Superstore has Shoppers Optimum, or sorry, PC Optimum MasterCard. Credit card companies loan you the money for your purchases with the promise that you will repay them under the terms of the agreement. Credit cards apply spending limits to your credit card based on your income and credit rating. See, credit card companies want to loan you enough so that you can pay them back after a certain time, but they certainly want that money back. So they're not going to give you, hundreds of thousands of dollars with the promise that you'll pay it back if your income doesn't warrant that. So there are definitely pros and cons to having a credit card. One pro is it's very convenient. You can buy stuff online, Though I know that you can have prepaid Visa cards that would do the same thing, but it just makes buying online that much easier. They build up a credit rating. They build your credit rating. Now, that's only if you manage to pay off your credit cards and are in good standing with debt. Some credit card companies offer rewards. But beware here, because sometimes they cost a whole heap of money to sign up for some of these cards. So you have to make sure that you do an analysis. If the cost of the credit card is more than you're getting back, then it's definitely not a good deal. The cons, you have to pay back what you owe on time. It's very easy to get into debt. Overspend and get into debt. Oh, debt, no, debt. And last one, other one that kind of came up, you can easily lose your credit card. But most credit card companies now have a kind of own personalized lock for your credit card. Not a physical lock, a digital lock where you can sign into the online banking pieces, and you can just put a lock on it. So if you think that you lose it, if you think that you've lost it, it's like putting a pause button on that credit card, and nobody can spend until, say, you find it. But if you don't find it, you will have to cancel it. So interest on purchases using a credit card. If you pay your entire balance owing on a credit card by the date on your statement, you will not be charged interest, okay? Credit card companies are really sad when people do this. because they don't actually make any money at that time. If the whole reason why credit card companies make money is because they're charging interest. So you would be happy, but the credit card companies would not be. If you only pay the minimum balance shown on your statement, the credit card company will charge you interest, which is compounded daily. Please note we're going to be using the simple interest formula just to keep it a little bit more simple to calculate interest. When I first got a credit card, you guys might think that I'm crazy, but I honestly thought that if I only pay the minimum payment shown on the statement, then I wouldn't be charged interest. Well, that was a rude awakening when I realized, oh yes, no, I'm definitely getting charged for interest. So I hope that you folks aren't tricked in that way. Most credit card companies must show how long it will take to pay off the balance owing, assuming that you only make the minimum payment and do not make more purchases on the card. And we'll take a look at that in a little bit. But let's just first look at an example statement. Now, this is just totally made up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. That's not a real thing. 1, 2, 3, any street. Okay, so clearly this is made up, but it kind of shows you some of the features that are on the credit card statement. So we have an account number, statement closing date. That's the cutoff point where no more purchases are considered for that statement. Your credit line, that means how much money you have available to you in total. The available credit is how much you have on your credit card. You take your full credit line and you subtract what the balance is, and this is what's left over. So this person obviously has a bit of a bit of a balance owing on their credit card. So then when we look at this previous balance, that means that they did not pay off the entirety of their credit cards. So that's why we have a previous balance. There are no credits from that month. The payments though, the payment here, it looks like they've made $1,688.15. So they've basically paid this off, but unfortunately they've also made more purchases. So even though they've paid off their previous statement, they have more. They have more waiting for them to pay for. So then the new balance for this credit card statement would be $523.20. This one right here, the new balance here is this $523.20, and this right here is your minimum payment. On here, this is a really cool thing to make note of. Purchases are at 19.8%, whereas the cash advances. So if you go into like a bank or an ATM and you take out money and you use your credit card as a way to take out the cash advances are priced at a higher interest rate. It's more expensive to use this as a cash advance. So if you're paying for something or you're paying for a bill or something like that, it's this 19.8. But if you use your credit on a credit card like you would cash, so if you're moving it from one bank account to another, or you go to an ATM machine and take out money, that is what this is calculated. That's what the 21.8% would be calculated on that. This is just an example here. We have the transaction date and the posting date. Sometimes there's a little bit of a time between. And here it would be like the merchant's name and what charges would be put onto the credit card, and then on the other way, the credits, like a payment, would be on this side here. So that's what it kind of looks like. Just a quick run through. This is what I was talking about though before. The Canadian government actually requires every single credit card company to put this on. It's a requirement now, which I think is really great. So if you make no additional charges using this card, and each month you pay only the minimum payment. Now this is not attached to the example one, but this is just an example in and of itself. It would take 7 years, and it will cost you about $2,000 and $2,007. However, if you up from the minimum payment, if you pay $43 instead, it would take you less than half the time. Okay, it would take you 3 years, and it would save you about $454. Now that's always just assuming that you don't use your credit card anymore. If you would make even a bigger payment, say $200, this would go down significantly, and you would save even more. So this I think is a very important teaching tool for the Canadian government, or from the Canadian government, to help us understand better the power that is in credit. It is a great responsibility when you've been given a card that you can, spend $5,000, $10,000 with one swipe. Okay, so let's move on to the mathy end of things. Let's go through a few questions here. So Mike had a previous balance of $500 on his credit card. He made a payment of $300 during the month. He made more purchases that totaled $190. If his interest is $19.45, what would his minimum monthly payment be if it corresponded with at least 5% or $10, whichever one is greater? So that's a lot. So let's talk about a few things. Let's use some vocabulary here. We always start with a number that we associate with a balance. Whenever we see purchases, we're going to add those to the balance. Whenever we see payments, we're going to subtract those things from the balance. And if we say interest, we are going to add that because it makes the balance bigger. So I'm just going to use a few different colors here. So whenever we want to start, we're gonna use pink. Anything that we add, we're gonna highlight in blue, and anything that we subtract, we're gonna highlight in green. Okay, let's see if I can remember those colors. Wish me luck. So we have a previous balance here of $500, so that's where we're starting. Payments, this is $300. So we subtract that, and we're saying the purchase, we're going to add that, and the interest, we're also going to add that. So this kind of so the colors help us organize, but also this kind of visual organizer here can help us organize our stuff too. But at least now we know what we add and subtract. So the previous balance, the starting place is always going to be $500. The payment that we make is $300. So remember, we're subtracting that. So that means that this month's unpaid balance is going to be $200. The interest, which we add, is $19.45. New purchases that month are $190. We add that. So when we add those things up, we're going to get $409.45. Now we need to see what 5% of this new balance is, because the minimum payment is either going to be $10 or 5%. So let's take this trusty dusty calculator here, and we have 409.45 times 0.05. That's how we figure out what 5% is. And we get $20.47. Now it says at least 5% of the ending balance or $10, whichever one is greater. So $20.47 is more than double $10. So that is what the minimum payment, not 47. That is what the minimum payment is going to be. Okay, so that's one type of question, discovering what the minimum monthly payment is. So that's why this was an important one to go to. Let's look at this one. Will's monthly credit card statement shows a previous balance owing of $963.45. Will only paid $500 of this balance to date. If he is charged an annual interest rate of 21%, how much interest will he pay after 42 days? So let's look at I equals PRT. This one right here, the P is always going to be our new balance. R is going to be our interest rate. And time. Time is always going to be in years, but what we need to do is we need to take the days and divide it by 365 to get it into that years. So let's look through and highlight the important things. So we're going to start out with the balance, the original balance. That's what we always start with. And then the payments that are made. So we subtract that. It doesn't mention any other sort of purchases on it. So these are the only things that we need to concern ourselves with. So remember the number that we start with is 963.45, and we're going to subtract that 500. And that will give us our new balance, which is something that we can use in our formula. When I go 963.45 minus 500, I get 463.45. So that's what I'm going to plunk into my formula here. So I'm just going to work here. I equals our P, which is 463.45. Our rate is 21%, so I write down 0.21. And instead of finding the decimal equivalent, all I'm going to do right here is I'm going to say 42 divided by 365, because I can just plunk that into my calculator. It kind of saves me a bit of a step. So I'm going to go 463.45 times 0.21 times 42, and don't forget to divide by 365, or otherwise you get a huge number. So when I do that, I see that it's, I'm going to write this down, 11.198. So that is 11.198. So look at this. This turns up this right here. Now usually it just affects the first number, but because it's a 19, because it's a 9, it affects both. So we are going to write down 20. That's how much in interest he would pay after 42 days. All right. Last question. Bob receives his monthly credit card statement shown below. If he only makes the minimum payment, how much interest will he be charged? Now, there is nothing about the old balance or purchases or anything like that. So we don't have to concern ourselves with that. We just need to concern ourselves with the new balance. So that's going to be our P, our annual interest rate. Oh, sorry, I forgot something. If he only makes the minimum payment. So that's not quite it. We need to consider both things first. This one, though, will be the rate. And if we divide this by 365, this is going to be our time. So let's figure out what our principal will be. That's going to be our new balance, which is 944.95, and we want to subtract $19. So that's going to be $925.95. So this is what we're going to put into our I equals PRT formula. So our principal is going to be that new balance instead of the new balance making the payment here, 925.95 multiplied by 0.299 because we have to change that to a decimal, and times 31 divided by 365. So I'm going to get on my trusty dusty calculator here, 925.95 times 0.299 times 31, and don't forget to divide by 365. So I get $23.51. Nothing funny here because it's a 4. And that's it. So please look at the questions that are attached in this booklet. Complete those, and if you want to check with me to see if your answers are right, that would be great.